Today we are going to talk about phylum Chordata. Phylum Chordata. The name says chord. So these are the organisms which are having a specific kind of cord, or we can say a solid rod-like material, or a vertebral column. So these are called chordate. Now we talk about their characteristics. Animals in phylum Chordata share four key features that appear at some stage during their development. Um, this is not necessary. It means that this is not necessary that these organisms all the time, I mean all stages of life, do have these features, but at some stage at least they do have. So these four features, what are those? Um, these are notochord, a hard rod-like structure, as you can see here in this diagram, or second, or maybe a vertebral column, a dorsal hollow nerve cord, a nerve cord that is present on around, or we can say, which, a nerve cord which is present running along uh, the notochord, pharyngeal gill slits. This is not necessary that these are present all at all stages of life, but in embryonic stages these are present. Post-anal tail, a tail-like a structure that is present after the anus. So these features are considered to be the important features of chordates, though there are many more features. Here you can see an example which is called Amphioxus. This is an organism living in the sea normally. It is showing these four features. A nerve cord on dorsal side of the body, a notochord running just below the hollow dorsal nerve cord, and then the post-anal tail and also the pharyngeal slits. So, notochord. What is notochord? The chordates are named for the notochord. Notochord is a flexible rod-shaped structure that is found in the embryonic stages of all chordates. This is most important feature of the chordates, that at any stage of life, they do have a rod-shaped structure which is flexible, uh, that is found in all embryonic stages of chordates. In some of the chordates, it is also present or continued in the adult stage as well. These are there are many species which are lower forms of chordates. We can also say that which are more simpler form of chordates. They do have that notochord during their adult life as well. Now, what are the functions of the notochord? It provides skeletal support, basically. It means that this gives basically body a framework through the length of the body. In some chordates, notochord act as the primary axial support of the body throughout the animal's life. Said there are few organisms which have this notochord uh, as their primary axial skeleton. We have two types of skeleton. Axial skeleton, that is running in the main axis of the body, like we have vertebral column and we have that chest cage ribs, or the appendicular skeleton, which is there in the appendages, like bones of the appendages. So, in many vertebrates, the notochord is present during embryonic development. It is replaced by vertebral column and the spine later on in most of the adult vertebrates. So, when they are in embryonic life, it's notochord. It's a hard structure comparatively, but it is replaced by a vertebral column, that is the jointed bones of a vertebra, which are arranged in the form of a column, which are called individually vertebrae. A singular will be called a vertebra. So majority of the vertebrae of the cord is like vertebral column, but a few do have notochord during their adult life. Then dorsal-hollow nerve cord. This is also a very important feature of the chordates, that all chordates should have. The nerve cord is derived from ectoderm in these organisms. We know that ectoderm is the outermost layer of these organisms. So that nerve cord is derived from ectoderm, and that rolls into a hollow tube during development. So what happened that it originates from the dorsal side, and then it moves up. We can say these cells moves up, grow up, and then they close, and hence a tube is formed. That is called dorsal hollow nerve cord. I mean dorsal because it's present on dorsal side, and hollow as it has to contain the nerve cord inside, so the nerves inside, nervous system inside. In chordates, it is located dorsally at the top of the animal, uh, above the notochord. And in other animal phyla, these are characterized by solid nerve cords that are located ventrally or laterally. Now, what happened that other animal phyla, invertebrate phyla, normally have their nerve cord towards the ventral side. That's why we always dissect invertebrates from dorsal side so that we do not want to damage the nerve cord. And we always dissect the vertebrates from ventral side because their nerve cord is on dorsal side, and we do not want to damage the nerve cord. That's why we have to do it that in this dissect. So dissection in vertebrates always from ventral side, dissection in invertebrates always from dorsal side. The nerve cord found in most chordate embryos develop into brain and spinal cords. So what this nerve cord forms? It forms brain and spinal cord. It means the central nervous system they make. So they basically comprise the central nervous system. Then the pharyngeal slits. Pharyngeal slits are openings in the pharynx that extend to the outside environment. Now, in the embryonic stages, all chordates do have these slits, which are openings to the external environment. And in organisms that live in aquatic environment, pharyngeal slits allow for the exit of water that enter from the mouth during the feeding. So when they are feeding, the organisms which are living in aquatic environments, when they're feeding, water enters through mouth. Now that water has to be removed out after filtering the food. These pharyngeal slits allow its movement uh, towards outside. Some chordates use the pharyngeal slits to filter food out of the water that enters the mouth. So some chordates are use these slits to filter out the food. So their size is according to the food. Food will be kept inside due to these slits, and then water moves up. The posternal tail. Posternal tail is the posterior elongation of the body. What is basically posternal tail? This is indeed an elongation of the body posterior to the anus. The tail contains skeletal elements and muscles. In many organisms, the tail contains skeletal elements. It means the skeleton. Generally, the vertebral column continues in that, and they also have muscles. Now, what happened because of presence of muscles and skeleton? This is movable. So, it provides a source of locomotion in aquatic species, in particular. In terrestrial vertebrates, the tail also help in the balance. Like for example, when monkeys are uh, climbing the trees, the tail help them in balancing their body on the tree. Then in humans and other apes, the postnatral tail is present during embryonic development, but it is vestigial as an adult. So it's a vestigial organ in case of humans and apes, many. Uh, Now we talk about classification. We also have to talk about more characteristics of these organisms, the chordates. But I have divided these into uh, classification. So when we are talking about different groups, subgroups of chordates, we will talk about the further characteristics. So classification, including characteristics. Basically, chordates are divided into four subphyla. One is called Cephalochordata, The next is called Urochordata or Tunicata sometimes. Hemichordata, and the vertebrate. So we have 4 subphyla present in chordates, which are named as Cephalochordata, Urochordata or Tunicata, Hemichordata, and the first subphylum, the vertebrates. We will elaborate on this in next part of the video. So I stop here. Thank you. You can post your questions as usual.